Well, hello. This is John Keedwell speaking to you now, recording for the Speak to Camera seminar or webinar. Lovely to see you here. Just waiting for a few more people to come online, but in the meantime, let's assume you can hear what I'm saying. And if you just put your hand up in the chat room, you can see me. Yes, you can. Thank you very much. Okay, without further ado, as it's now time, I will just have a quick look at this actually. Questions. Okay. Good to see a few people online. Okay, great. So this is John Keedwell, and I'm now going to teach you, go through the Speak to Camera webinar. This is all a bit new to me, this webinar software, so if it goes a bit horribly wrong, let's see what happens. So why do we want to speak to camera? Well, while it's more and more important nowadays to talk to camera, and ultimately, so I just realized I pressed the wrong button. Speak to camera nowadays because there's a lot of information that is better dealt with by talking to camera and having a video recording of yourself working 24/7. I'll go to that in a bit more detail. This is not going to be a huge, long webinar, I hasten to add. This is going to be a relatively short, it's going to be probably about an hour, but there is information at the end that is worth looking at when you get to see it. But ultimately, it's not going to be hours and hours. So I know your time is valuable, so is mine. So talking to camera, obviously that's a very old microphone, and we wouldn't use one of those anymore. But ultimately, video is now it's come of age in the past couple of years, where the technology has caught up, and actually we're able to record and actually present ourselves to many people at once. I'll deal with that a bit more in a minute, but before I get to that, the biggest thing that most people I find having a problem with doing videos is the fact that my keyboard doesn't work. Is the fact that most people don't like themselves on video. And if that's you, it's vitally important that you get over that and actually become proficient at it and good at it in talking to camera. Because at the end of the day, you have a message, and if you have a message, if you haven't got a message, that's fine, but if you've got a message, and most people have something they want to say, your message is important to get over to as many people as possible. So ultimately, your message is important. Okay. Before I go on to huge detail, I'll explain a little bit about me and where I've come from. This is a very short CV, if you like, of what I do. My background is film and TV cameraman. Largely in the sort of 80s, I did lots of pop promos with Duran Duran and Bon Jovi and a whole bunch of people there. Lots of documentaries in, I think it's 66 countries. It's probably more than that, but let's call it that for the moment. 9 months around the world with the Royal Navy, and many other documentaries around the world, so I've seen a lot of life and I've met a lot of people from various degrees of fame and popularity. I've got myself into some scrapes, as you can see along the bottom there. That's the picture of the ship is HMS Manchester there, Type 42 destroyer. That's where I went most of the world around on. And the picture next to it is Pink Floyd. That's actually shot in the room I'm actually broadcasting from as the man in the wheelchair, the purpley colored picture there. That's the room I'm broadcasting from now, believe it or not. It's a Pink Floyd Roger Waters video. So the BAFTA thing there is I'm a member of BAFTA, so I vote on BAFTA BAFTA films. Actually, at the end of the year, I vote on BAFTA films. So I have a large experience of background in film and TV, and basically watching films and knowing what's good. The crucial part of what I used to do, though, was I've done over, this is an estimate, but doing the maths, it's over 3,700 interviews with different people. Some were rock bands, some were, you know, as I say, they're boxers. Tony Blair, Inside Number 10. Yes, I have been inside there. Yes, it is different and a lot bigger than you might imagine when you get inside it. And very bright, actually, very bright and yellow. Been to Boy George's house, been to Lennox Lewis's house, been to Spike Milligan's house, bless him, and Harry Seacombe. And some of the people that I interviewed that you might think were incredibly conversant with when they're talking to lots of people, some of them were actually quite shy, believe it or not. Not those people there, I hasten to add. Boy George was certainly not shy. But ultimately, some of the people that can hold 20, 30,000 people in a big auditorium were actually shy. And I actually had to develop a system where the people were actually getting used to the camera and actually got the very best from them in the camera. So I had to develop a system where people were actually able to get the best for themselves and actually get the best for the viewer and get the story across. So that's very briefly, particularly relevant as you see as it goes on. I see that there's a couple of questions there. I've got to switch over screens in a second, but I'll have a look and see if there's any questions. But if we keep the questions to the end, because some of the questions probably will be relevant when we see at the very end. I probably will have explained it. If not, there's time at the very end, if that's okay. But they're all logged in the chat box, so I will actually take a look at from there on. So, okay, let's crack right on. Now, this, you may have had a view like this. This is actually obviously microphone standing in front of about 500 people there. Speaking from stage is one of the most difficult things that people say, and it has been said that speaking from stage is worse than dying. And on the other side of that is people also say talking to a camera is actually worse than talking on stage. Now, I've done both, and talking on stage has its nerve-wracking parts. So I don't really want that there. So let's get rid of that. Hopefully you don't see that. But ultimately, talking on camera does have a different dynamic because it has different restrictions to it. It also has certain freedoms when you get to talk on camera because you don't have to do it all in one go and several hours at a time. So this may be a view you've seen before personally, but maybe not. Maybe this is a view you've seen. I mean, ultimately, this is the small round bit of glass that we have to look into when we're talking directly to camera. That's kind of what it looks like. That's actually pretty much the size of a broadcast camera lens. A smaller camera would be smaller, but ultimately we have to talk to that bit of glass like it was a person. And I think that's what most people find the most difficult. There's no interaction. There's no feedback from the audience. If you're doing something wrong, on stage, you'll believe me, you'll know about it. And when you actually get there and actually you're talking to camera, it's ultimately that piece of lens you have to talk to. Why is this important? Well, nowadays, the internet is full of businesses where you're teaching other people what to do online. And this is a absolutely huge business. And if you're not in this business already, I suggest you get into it, as soon as possible. Can everybody see me, by the way? I'm just, let's just, can you just put your hand up and just check that you can actually see me and listen to me? Okay, cool. So yes, so looking to the future, online education is huge. So if it's not a part of your business now, it needs to be. It really is that important. So it is a huge market, and if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a speaker already, I suggest you have some kind of internet online marketing side of your business. It's also, when you're talking to camera, it is actually vitally important for larger corporations as well to come across as being genuine and being coherent and congruent with what they're saying. Now, we've had a lot of that recently in politics in Britain, where people are saying one thing and actually, well, do I believe them from the way they're saying it? So you have to kind of look as though you're talking about what you're talking about properly, and understand that when you're coming across on video, it's a different dynamic to talking to a person, and there's several reasons why that is. I'll just go through a few. These are genuine off Udemy, actually. There's just screen grabs from Udemy. These are the types of courses that are on sale as we speak. This is a particular one where you look at that. Now, this used to be sold for about £60 or so. Look at that. There's 1,700 people enrolling on that one, and it's 4 hours of material. I'm going to skip through these because there's a few of them. So now, if you've got a cat and you've got a multi-cat household, look at that. 783 people have enrolled in that course to train somebody how to get your cat along in a multi-cat household. Well, there's a market for that. Now, this is what I'm saying here is, it may not be what you tend to normally think of what is your skill, but ultimately, if your skill is, say, photography or hang gliding, then that's one thing. But some people want to know how to solve a problem, and if they've got several cats in the household and cats aren't getting on, that is a particular course. They go, yeah, that solves my problem. I'll buy that course. Here's another great one. Weight loss, always a huge niche. Look at that, 4,500 people enrolled on that. Weight loss mastery for the busy professional. But now, ultimately, weight loss, you eat less, exercise more, ultimately. But that's a particular niche for the busy professional, because busy professional means you don't have a lot of time, presumably. And how they say there, how to lose 60 pounds in the next 6 months. So another one, Snapchat. Obviously, it's busy at the moment. Snapchat. Look at that, 6,500 people have bought a £10 course to work out how to use Snapchat. Now, you'd think there's not that much to Snapchat. I haven't really used it, but 6,500 people times £10, do the maths. Now, Udemy's share the revenue with the person who's made the course, but ultimately, so that is £5, let's say, as that was a 50-50 split, if it's 50-50, but that's still not a bad thing for 2 hours of material. 22 lectures, 2 hours of material. You getting the picture? This one, and if you're in the internet marketing niche, Gary Vaynerchuk is a huge part of that. He has a course on Udemy. Now, he's got a massive following. He's written several best-selling books, and is really is a guru in the internet marketing niche and branding your business. So he's got 15,000 people enrolled. Now, he doesn't really need the money, I don't think. However, it's a brand awareness thing, and people can lead from there to your brand. So Gary Vaynerchuk is probably one of the most outgoing and he speaks his mind and he just says it as it is, and he speaks very fast. He's a New Yorker. If you don't know Gary Vaynerchuk, by the way, I make no commission from him, but he is well worth looking at. He's a very, very straight talking, cuts the chase kind of guy. So those are several courses. I just picked those at random that I saw were reasonably high sort of values, and actually people going through it. But what has actually changed in recent years to make this particular area more important? And actually, what has changed so that it's become possible now, where it was even probably 2 or 3 years ago? Well, a lot of it is to do with content delivery. People now want to learn online. They want to have the time to do it themselves. They don't necessarily want to go to a course for 2 days, although there is a reason for that, and I'll get to that later. This is what we're leading to at the end of the course. But there is a space where people want to learn the basics at home and then go and use that knowledge to go on and get more personal, interactive, quality time. How that has become possible is fast laptops, broadband speeds higher, high quality cameras that are relatively inexpensive, and a desire for people to learn online. There is a huge desire. I'm making a course at the moment for Groupon. Well, it's for me, but ultimately I'll be pushing it through Groupon. And Groupon gets huge amounts of traffic and business through their site. I mean, the guy in Britain, he's getting 30 a day, of courses. People are pitching him 30 courses a day, and that's an awful lot of courses, and it's a huge market. So another part of this is, if you've ever been in John Lewis in Britain recently, and you've been in the television department, 4K televisions are all the rage, even though nobody is yet broadcasting in 4K. Now, if you don't know what 4K is, it's very high quality. It's much higher resolution than normal high definition. It's actually 4 times the pixel count. So people are looking for high quality visual entertainment. The fact they're buying 4K televisions is a testament to that. And look at the graph on the right there. The second quarter, where the arrow is, this is where we are now. And at the bottom down at the left, that's just the first quarter of 2013. So from in sort of 3 years, it's gone from nothing to around about 20% of the market. And will grow, and will go mad. That is without even being broadcast at the moment. Now, I'm not saying everybody should broadcast in 4K. In fact, I don't say that you don't need to broadcast your videos in 4K, but all my cameras I have are now capable of shooting in 4K. Again, there are 4K smartphones. My Samsung, I've got a Samsung S6 that can shoot up to 4K video, which is crazy. A couple of years ago, you had to spend $30,000 or more just on the camera, just to get a camera that would shoot in 4K. And it was massive big hard drives. Whereas now you can shoot a little bit on your phone. So quality visuals are happening. There is a space still for selfies. There is a space for selfie sticks. There's a space in the market for that type of thing. However, I think the market is changing to become a bit more controlled, should we say? And people, I watch some selfies and I get a bit sort of sick watching them, because the background's moving behind them and the head's staying still, as far as I can see. So I find it quite annoying. And there's, there's only a certain amount of that you can watch in short bursts. It has its space, and I know people use it very, very effectively for business. But what I'm talking to you now is about using your time effectively and actually getting a quality product with quality sound and quality lighting. Now, don't frighten yourself by all this, because I'll show you how to do this in a minute. But that is normally the reaction when some people see a camera. That is what they either think or that is what they look like. A deer in the headlights or rabbit in the headlights, whatever you want to think, whichever way you like to think about it. It's that, oh my word, what do I say? Do I look great in this? And the biggest thing that people have is they look different on camera. And I'm going to show you that in a little while. But ultimately, this is a very famous quote by Henry Ford, who says, if you think you can't do something, or you think you can, or the other way around, you're right. So if you think you're frightened of cameras, or if you think you don't like cameras, you're right. If you think the camera loves you and you are great on camera, you're also right. So bear that in mind when we go on to the next bit. There's a few little scary pictures coming up, I hasten to add, of me. I thought I'd put myself up there because, well, what better way to demonstrate it? So in my background of documentaries, I ultimately found a way of putting people at ease. And I now know a lot of what puts people at unease in front of the camera. Now, obviously, all the eyes on the left, if all those eyes were looking at you at once, they're obviously all animals' eyes. There's a shark in there, there's an elephant, there's a whole bunch of stuff, there's an eagle. If all those are looking at you, you'd have a bit of a bad day. But is that worse than looking at a bit of glass that's got a little red light by it? I don't personally think so. And if you've ever been in front of a stage and you've had 500 people looking at you, it's quite scary if you're not trained. However, I went on stage a couple of weeks ago, in front of 700 people, and to be quite honest, it was actually I loved it. It was great. But because I've had training in that, and I knew many things in terms of talking to camera as well, about putting yourself at ease on stage. So let's get cracked on with this. This is obviously Abraham Lincoln. Now, you look at those two pictures, kind of the tagline at the bottom kind of gives it away, really, but that is Abraham Lincoln, but how he saw himself in the mirror and how everybody else saw him. Now, I'll leave that with you for a second, because look at those two pictures. How you can tell it's him, but I think he's got a very different sort of demeanor when he's looking to the world than he is actually looking in the mirror. I actually think he looks slightly more relaxed when he's appearing to the world, myself. I'll leave you to have your own perception on that, but ultimately he looks very different the other way around. If you know, you'd still pick him out in a lineup if you've done something wrong, but ultimately you look at it and go, well, actually, nobody's got a symmetrical face. If you look at his hair, it's different. You look at his skin on under his eye, it's different. If you look at the features on his face, even his eyebrows, it's okay. He's lit slightly differently from one side, but ultimately, we see ourselves in a mirror. This is fundamental to how many people don't like themselves on video camera, and it's the same with stills cameras as well. People see themselves in a mirror. They are the only people uniquely to see themselves reversed. So when the camera sees them the right way round, and a stills camera sees them the right way round, And there's several other aspects which I'll show you in a second or two. Ultimately, they see themselves reversed. Now, I know some photographers that if you were the client, they would reverse the picture. So you see yourself as the client, you see yourself reversed in the picture. So it's as you expect to see yourself. Now, don't underestimate this. This is absolutely a huge reason why people don't like to see themselves on camera, because they're so, imagine how many times you see yourself every day. You know, when you go to, you know, a bathroom, you wash your hands, you look in the mirror, at least half a dozen times a day, if not more. So when it's presented in an opposite way around, that doesn't quite look quite like me. I'll tell you another reason why. When we see ourselves in the mirror, we're reversed, but also it's distorted. And hopefully this is the next slide, because I can't see the next slide. Yes, there we go. This is me on the right, if you don't know me. And this is me on the left. It's the same scale, by the way. I've made sure they're the same size. If you look at the width of my eyes, but that's taken in my bathroom on a Samsung phone, very close up. If you look how different my face looks, it's the same face, believe me. It's taken a couple of years apart, but ultimately I have the same face. If you look at the picture on the left, my ears disappear completely. My face is elongated. It's distorted. I have a much more bigger nose. My eyes look a bit crazy. Okay, I was looking in reflection to see the image on the camera, of course, so I'm looking slightly cross-eyed, but ultimately it's very much closer up. This is how we see ourselves in the mirror. That's what makes us look thinner as well. If you look at the picture on the right, I'm pretty much the same weight, but ultimately I look, because the camera is further away, and it's a proper studio camera, and a studio, as you can tell from the picture, it's a studio setup, but it makes me look more chubby on the picture on the right. I hope you'll understand that and agree that. Well, that's fine, but ultimately that is a more natural representation because the camera is further away. The lighting is also different. If you look at the lighting on the right, there's a bit of depth there. There's a bit of 3D element to it, which is a very important part of photography about lighting. A lot of people teach information about lighting, and they'll teach you to make it look like the picture on the left. Not particularly that close up, but the lighting, they make it all nice, horrible and flat. Now, to me, that's not photography. And it actually goes against what photography is about. Photography is ultimately representing what is a three-dimensional object, as in my face in this particular occasion. It represents on a two-dimensional screen. And with photography and video, you're attempting to make it look three-dimensional by lighting or focus or both. So that is particularly why we look distorted. People say, I don't like myself and it makes me look fatter. That's why it happens. Predominantly look in the mirror and lighting. I should go into the next bit, which is even more scary. When people deliver webinars and not webinars, but sort of, you know, things on their webcam, they pick the wrong angle to shoot the video, and it'll look something like that. Now, this is a vertical video. Forget that for the moment. It's a still, just to get over the impression that what we're talking about. Now, my chin and my nose are huge if you look at that compared to my face. The top of my head is like so I've shot that from below. Obviously, I'm looking up, and that is a lot of time what happens when people look at a webcam. It's a distorted view. Now, that's not a pretty look. I've intentionally made it so, you know, that's quite a threatening look to me. And if I was looking over you, you know, in the street like that, you'd run a mile. Now, I'm not kind of a crazy kind of axe murderer, but, you know, that's a very, very scary look. But people on a webcam will be happy to do that and then realize why, and don't realize why they look scary on a video camera. I'm going through these relatively quickly. These are several of the reasons. There's obviously a lot much more to it than this. I hope you're all with me. We've got a few more things to go, but I can see there's quite a few people still here, so that's good. And these are genuine screen grabs I've got from people to illustrate that point I've just shown you. The top two are webcams. See how they, I happen to know the person on the top left, but these are genuine things from YouTube. They're not very flattering because you see the ceiling. It gets worse than this, by the way. I've got a few shots in a minute. I'll show you with people who are teaching this stuff. What happens? Well, if you look at that and you go, the guy on the right, top right, you know, there's things distracting the background. You can see the ceiling. I don't want to see somebody's ceiling. The bottom two, the guy on the left in a blue shirt, he's actually teaching a speak to camera video. Now, that's shot in a studio against a black background. However, it's either chroma keyed or he's lit it in a very flat way. If you look at that, it's very flat. And if you look in his glasses, it's reflecting. Now, glasses are a very difficult thing to do. I personally wouldn't have that amount of reflection in his glasses. I'd find a way of lighting him so he wasn't having those reflections. Now, the guy in the bottom right, I'm not going to dwell on all of these because, you know, I find it a bit depressing. But the guy on the bottom right, he's got his eyes are pretty much banged right in the middle of the frame with, you know, a lot of headroom over the top of it. And ultimately, he's a person who has a lot of people watching him, but ultimately is actually a very, very annoying sort of style he has when he's on screen. Anyway, I won't digress onto that. Let's go onto this. Now, these are examples of people teaching how to talk on camera. These are literally screenshots from their courses. Now, I look at that and go, you're teaching people how to create something like that. Well, to be quite honest, I don't want to create something like that. That is so distracting, the background. You know, I'm wondering about who's going to walk through that door. I'm looking at the fact his face is remarkably pink and blue because he's got daylight coming in from a window. And the camera's altered it to make his face very pink because he's got a blue shirt on. And I'll get to that in a minute, but ultimately the camera doesn't know what you want to look at. So this is somebody teaching somebody else, and this is quite a successful course. This is somebody teaching people how to appear on video camera. Here's another one. This guy is one of the biggest people on Udemy. He has, I think it's 150,000 subscribers now. This is one of his earlier videos. Now, if you look at that, his thing is, his course, this particular module is about better video lighting. Is that great video lighting? Is that great framing? I'm not making this up. This is somebody on a course who is saying, this is great video lighting. This is great framing. He's got a fan growing out of his head. He's got the ceiling in there. He's got the light, presumably from either the screen or maybe there's a light that's illuminating him. I don't know. But that is not what I call great video. He's improved as he's gone on, but it's still quite scary that this has done over 100,000 viewers apparently. Beggars belief, anyway. Here's another one. This is somebody else. This is a classic selfie. This is somebody teaching people, believe it or not, how to make better videos. Now, if you're watching that, would you think that's something to emulate, as something to be great and emulate? Because I don't. I think that's, well, I think you gather what I think of what's that sort of thing. So what I'm teaching you is, I use this as an analogy. We can all go down to B&Q or a popular store and buy a load of bricks and a bit of mortar and a trowel and a plumb line and a spirit level, and we could build, probably get around, after a while we could work out, watch a few videos on YouTube, work out how to build a wall of some description, maybe a garden wall, something like he's building there, a couple of feet high, nothing particularly great. However, if you are, so anybody can, the analogy I use is anybody can go and buy any kind of equipment with the amount of money. Does that make them a bricklayer? No. Does it make them an expert? No. You get to be an expert by being a bricklayer or being a plumber or photographer, by doing it and getting good at it and training at it and having somebody experienced show you how it's done. So ultimately, anybody could buy a load of bricks, but could they build that? Probably not. That's a whole new level of brickmanship and skill, clearly. I think people think that just because they buy something, they can actually go and do the very best and actually, shoot the next Star Wars movie on their iPhone. Well, you could if you really wanted to, but it wouldn't look anything like what Star Wars looks like now. So on that basis, if we built a wall, some of us could build a wall and it's functional. It would probably stand up, but it might look like this. This is an analogy, okay? I think you probably gathered. It looks a bit rough. It sort of does the trick, but you look at it and go, well, actually, I wouldn't trust that. This is kind of what I'm saying. If you've got a video that people look at it and go, well, obviously you've spent some money on that. You've actually, and what you're saying is congruent with what you're saying, then they're more likely to trust you and do business with you. So if the wall looks like this, they're not going to trust you. Hopefully that analogy has come across now. So what I teach in my seminars and webinars, I'm shooting this Thursday. I'm shooting an online course which will be ready probably mid-June. And at the end of June, I've got a live course which is available in London. I will be having different courses around different countries, but for now it is in London. The venue is to be arranged yet, but still it's the 25th and 26th of June. And so what I teach in there is professional techniques made easy. People have a thing about cameras and technology and, oh my, I don't understand it. But predominantly what I go through is teaching people's mindset, the message they've got. Those two things are way more important than the technical aspects. On the top right there, you've got an iPhone with a little lens called the Holo Clip. Okay, I don't have an iPhone, but I've got several lenses that do a very similar thing. By taking a little bit of effort with an iPhone or a smartphone, you can shoot some great stuff. You just have to know how to do it. And the tricks and tips to do it. This is predominantly what I teach, but before that, it's getting your script right. It's getting the message you want to get across, because the way we speak is different to how we write things down. And you can write the most fantastic script in the world that's impossible to speak. I spend a lot of time teaching people how to say something in simple terms so that it's how people talk to each other, and how ultimately you can actually get their video seen by as many people as possible. People will be entertained by it, and they will have a professional result at the end of it. The technical details, I only kind of go into the bits that you really need to know. And we can go on after that, but ultimately in 2 days on a workshop, I can show you going from a standing start of, this is my idea, this is my business. Now, it may be you have a business, it may be you have a hobby that you want, or you may have a cat sort of training course that you want to get out there. You know a lot about cats, and you go, it's your message to the world. Ultimately, if you don't share that information with somebody that would solve their problem, you're doing them a disservice. So if you've got information that is unique to you, and even if you don't think it's unique to you, people will potentially buy that information from you if it solves their problem. And remember that. And most advertising, if you think about it, is based on that. If you've got dirty clothes, you've got a washing powder that cleans your clothes. If you're hungry, there's several well-known restaurants that advertise on television and radio. If you're thirsty, if you want a beer that is the coolest thing in the world, they can advertise a beer. It solves your problem at that particular time. And if you have a knowledge that people want, they will buy it from you. I can't stress that highly enough. Hopefully that's come across. But you need to get it the easiest way possible. And you need to learn some new skills, but you don't need to spend 3 years at university. So this is the course. You've probably seen the left-hand course. The workshop is on the 25th and 26th of June this year. And for this evening only, I mean, literally it started at 7 o'clock and finishes at, I think it's 9, I put it at. If you go to that link there, I'll show you this again in a second. But that's a bit.ly link that goes directly to the page, and you'll see there the workshop. There's 3 options. One is the full price, one is the early bird price up to the 29th of May, and there's a webinar price for this webinar only. So if you're listening to this recording when it's recorded, when you're listening to the recording, not live as today on the 23rd of May, if you're listening to the recording, that offer won't be there. Okay, it's only for this evening. So without further ado, this is a brief summary of what I teach on the course. I will go to that bit.ly course, bit.ly URL in a few seconds. I'll go back to that in a few seconds. This is predominantly what I teach. This is the breakdown of my very basic breakdown of my internet course. This actually goes to 27 pages of script. So that for 4 modules is very broken down. But ultimately, if you look at the first 2, it's mindset, the message, the words, and KIS means keep it simple. There's actually one that says KISS, and keep it simple, stupid. I prefer KIS because, you know, I do. If you look at that, a lot of it is self-perception and how we perceive ourselves. and how stage and video is different. How, if you're taught to speak on stage, how it's different. It's not better or worse. It has a different dynamic to it. With video, there's some restrictions, but also it frees you up. With stage, you're on stage in front of 1,000 people. You're on stage, and if something goes wrong, everybody sees it. If something goes wrong on the video, you can edit it and get rid of it if you want to, and paper over the cracks if you like. So there's only really one module or one group of modules that is the technology about how to make it happen, because the camera isn't that important. The iPhone was used a couple of years ago to shoot the Bentley commercials. If you look it up, Bentley iPhone 5, Bentley commercial iPhone 5 on YouTube. I don't have the thing now, but you can find it. And there's a black and white video there that shows you how Bentley shot their commercial on the iPhone 5. There's also one for the iPhone 6. For some reason, it's a bit more difficult to find, but if you search it out, it's about making racing jackets for Bentley. They make specific racing jackets in Savile Row, and that's shot on the iPhone 6. Both shot in black and white. If you didn't know they were shot on the iPhone, you wouldn't know. You'd have to be told, no, really. It's the way that it's shot. It's taking the tool and using it in a professional way. Now, I'm not talking about, hiring £1,000 camera or £10,000 camera and a whole camera crew and studios. I'm talking about shooting stuff on your iPhone, shooting it so it looks professional, shooting it so it sounds professional. And so you are congruent with what you say, and your image is congruent with everything about you. I'll just go through around these pictures. The picture of the brain is there because the way the brain works is quite fascinating, because as I said before, the Henry Ford, where he says, if you believe you can't, or if you believe you can, you're right. And I believe that if you have the positive frame of mind that says, I'm great on camera, I'm going to deliver this really well, you will do. There may be nerves there, but when you get past the nerves and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Believe me, I'm this webinar, there's no script for this. I'm literally talking to you now purely off what I see on the screen. There's just keywords and key frames that I can talk to you about. And some bits I've ad-libbed. It doesn't matter. You don't know which bits I've ad-libbed. I know what I'm going to say, but ultimately, that's how it should come across when you're talking on a video camera. It should be conversational, even though it's a one-directional conversation. It's a monologue, if you like, but ultimately, it's how you should come across as being personable. It should be, I can trust that guy. He's not going to rip me off. I'll do business with him. And that's how I do my business. I teach people to throw away the teleprompter, or if they've got one. I teach different ways of learning the script, so you don't have to learn it. You literally have a keyword or key picture and go, right, I can talk about that. Incidentally, the picture on the bottom right shows you a rather prettier picture of a young lady, on the same principle as I showed you with my picture on my phone and in the studio. If you look at the way she's distorted, it's the same girl in the same situation, taken with a wide angle lens on the left, if you can't see it, 24mm, and a more telephoto lens on the right. It's much more pleasing. Even though her face looks fuller on the right, it's a much more flattering look with a longer telephoto lens. And ultimately, if you've got an idea, if you've got something you want to commit, if you've something that is a burning passion inside you, get it out there. Get people out there and have them devour your information, and have that lead onto another part of your business. It doesn't really matter what your business is, as long as it's legal. get your passion out there. If your passion is photography, it needs to get out there, and that passion should be able to come out on a video. The Einstein picture there, if you come on the course, I'll show you what that is, and that is actually quite fascinating how the mind works. I was going to do a whole load of optical illusions, but I thought it's probably going to blow your mind. Some of them quite crazy. So that's a very brief. That's not bad. It's 50 minutes. I shall leave you now with, there's one of these. The ultimate thing is your skills when you learn this, they're evergreen. What I mean by that is it's a term that means they're literally, you can do it once and you can keep on getting it, repeating it again and again and again. Once you've got a video up online, it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this year it's up 366 days because this year's a leap year. So if you want to have a business around the world, it's a great way to drive traffic to your website and have new clients, new businesses. It helps many people around the world. If it shows people how to have water coming in, it won't go out of date. So on that note, I shall now leave it to any questions that the audience have got. And I just have to switch over screens. Oh, blimey, that's blown it. Where's my thing gone? Let's roll off the table. Fantastic. It's all going so well. So I'll leave it on there because I can't find my mouse. But ultimately, there it is. Right. Let's have a look. By the way, let's see on our message, and I'll switch that on now. Okay, so one of the questions, I'll put this back to this because you don't really want to see the share screen, and I'll get it back to the oh, that's gone horribly wrong. Share that. Share. Okay, one of the questions. Sorry about that. I said that this is new software to me, so it's taking a little time to get used to it. One of the questions is, are there any other dates? There are potentially other dates coming up. There may be another one in July. There may also be one on a Tuesday and Wednesday or during the week. If that suits you better, please let me know. Some venues are full at weekends because that's when most people have their events. However, some venues are great. They have, I was looking at one just before it came out on this webinar tonight, near to me, and it's very, very available during the week, and it's free. But ultimately, at the weekend, it's booked up until July, August. So I may run one during the week. If you let me know that's something you may want to look at, then great. Hopefully that answers your question. I do have all everybody's addresses, so I will be telling you afterwards what what the. So I'm just seeing two different screens here for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not quite sure what screen you're seeing. Anyway, at the end of the day, there are the course. I will advise you. So another question was about the course. I will advise you when the course is available, the online course. It will be, I'm literally planning to shoot it this Thursday. I've got the venue sorted out, and it'll all be shot. To editing will take a little while. Testing it, make sure it's make sure the venue is right and all the rest of it, but it takes a little while to edit it. But ultimately, it's going to be available mid-June, roughly around about the time of the course, which is happening at the end of June. Another question. Let's just have a look. Yes. Okay. Somebody asked about. I skipped over quite a few things there. Obviously, you're not going to learn everything in 1 hour. The biggest thing people have is talking to camera is the reflection in the mirror. The second thing is it distorts their face. So if you get over those two big things and you show people and you show you how this works, then ultimately half the battle's over. Then they've got to get used to the camera. You've got to get used to the camera and how all that works, because people are frightened of the technology. It's very simple nowadays. It literally, you can plug something in, press the red button like you got on the picture here, and ultimately you're good to go. My voice is going a little bit now, so I've been on talking for an hour. There's a couple more questions. I'm just looking. Two of them are pretty much the same. Do I do call outs to companies? Yes, I do. However, to get the full benefit, really, it's a 2-day course. I can do a day and I can cut to the chase. It depends how technically minded people are or how confident they are to begin with. If you're doing presentations already, then you may get past the mindset area and the script area, so that could be condensed. The technical side of things of talking to camera and lighting, that's another thing. I like to teach that properly, because as you saw in the examples there, people are teaching it and they're not teaching it right. I'm ashamed to see some, not ashamed, but I'm shocked to see some of the things that people are teaching. Some things I hear I'm literally, I've looked at every single course around that is about teaching how to talk on camera. Believe me, I've bought them myself and I've actually looked at them. Some of them teach information that is just wrong. Some teach information that is dangerous, like wrapping lights in plastic. It's a fire hazard. With no ventilation holes, for example. It's a fire hazard. Some people teach you about LED lights. I'm not going to go into now, but ultimately there's LED lights and there's LED lights, and there's fluorescent lights as well. There's a reason why professional lights are £2,000 and not £20. There's a very good reason. It's a bit like if you buy a computer. The faster the computer, the more memory it's got, and the bigger hard drive, the more expensive it is. It's the same with lights. LED lights are particularly, I probably shouldn't go to this right now, but the LED lights are particularly difficult because it's not a continuous light source. It looks it to your eye, but it flashes. It's how fast that flashes that matters, and also the color temperature, which again is probably too much now. But anyway, so if you'd like to continue to the site and you're still on the course, I see a few people have already ordered, and I look forward to seeing you on the 25th and 26th. I will send out an email to you straight away at the end of this and say hi. But ultimately, up until 9 o'clock, it's now just gone 8 o'clock, so you can tell it's live. I shall leave that up on the screen, but for now, it's me over and out, and I shall cut this microphone, but ultimately, I'll live on the screen for you now if you want to copy that down, but it's literally bit.ly link. If you don't bit.ly, then speak to Camera Workshop. And I shall see you on the other side. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully that's been interesting. Please send me your comments. You will be getting an email almost directly. This is finished, actually. I will also tell you when this webinar is up online on YouTube. There's a YouTube recording of it straight away. So I will tell you that when we get to the end of it, and I shall speak to you soon. Goodbye.